Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we're reading pages 41 to 62 and the final episode of the Puppet Carver. Not the whole book, just the final episode of the section of the book that's titled The Puppet Carver. So, besides my phone going off for some stupid reason, why did it go off? Because someone sent me an email. Cool. Y'all know my opinion on my emails. So, besides my email going off, should be pretty fast day. Considering last episode I accidentally read one page more, so it's really only 20 pages, yada yada. So, without further ado, let's begin. An idea popped into Jack's head. Donuts. Donuts would be a start. Back when he and Becky had been young and broke, they had been met for dates at Dunky Donut Man, or Dough Man, an all-night donut place near the coffee shop where Becky had been working at the time. Despite its stupid name, the Dunky Dough Man was the perfect place for a cheap date. The two of them would scrape enough money for a donut each, a chocolate frosted for Becky and a maple frosted for Jack, and 2 cups of coffee. The manager didn't mind that they only spent $5 and took up a booth for hours, talking and drinking cup after cup of coffee. Or if he did, he never said anything. That was back when he and Becky really talked to each other. Before the money, before parenthood, before all the stresses of responsible adult life. They talked earnestly about their dreams, their goals, and the future. If Jack brought home donuts from the Dunky Dough Man, maybe it would remind her of those conversations. Maybe it would be the first step getting him to talking again. There's no street parking near the donut shop, so Jack used the parking garage a block away. He wasn't thrilled by the fact. Really, the Dunky Dough Man wasn't the safest neighborhood to be wandering at night. But he had become increasingly convinced that showing up with a bag of donuts might be a path back to Becky's heart. It was a thoughtful gesture, and it had been a long time since he had been thoughtful. Jack didn't like parking garages. There had been something eerie about the flickering fluorescent lighting and the way it sounds echoed. The elevators always seemed to be on the verge of breaking and were infested by foul and mysterious odors. Jack breathed a sigh of relief when the elevator doors opened, counseled through the garage exit. At first, he heard only the sound of his own shuffling footsteps. Then he was sure he heard another pair of footsteps behind him. He casually glanced over his shoulder. There's no need to be afraid. It was probably just another regular person on a regular errand like he was. But Jack saw no one. He chalked it up to the weird echo effect of the parking garage and walked through the exit onto the street. He walked past the dry cleaners and insurance office. Most of the businesses on the street were dark and locked up for the night. But in the distance, he could see the light of the Dunky Dough Man sign and the smiling donut mascot. He heard the footsteps behind him again. He returned and only saw a flash of movement as whoever it was ducked into the alley. Jack was pretty sure he was just being paranoid. After his near-death experience earlier in the day, it made sense that his nerves were on edge. He heard the steps again. They sounded wet, squishy, like somebody walking in the galoshes in the rain. Jack started walking more quickly and the steps sped up to match his. He was tempted to turn around and confront the person, but what good would it do if the person were armed? He broke out into a run, though he knew he was too out of shape to run for long. The squishy steps behind him ran too. Suddenly, the donut shop seemed so far away to be a safe destination. He had to go inside somewhere. He had to find a place with people and lights, a place where the pursuer would not follow him. He caught sight of an office building on the left, tried the door, and found it open. Once inside, he noticed that the door had a chain. He had quickly fastened. There was also a lock on the doorknob, which he turned. Feeling a little safer, he took a deep breath and turned around to survey the space where he found himself. There was no people, only a light was with a single bare bulb overhead. The building looked abandoned. Graffiti had been spray painted all over the walls. The glass in the windows had been smashed, and the doors that once led to the offices had been torn off their hinges. He glanced inside of the room, and the desk of the roving office chair and piles of garbage, probably from people who had been squatting in the place. Squatters. There was something else to fear. But the building was as silent as a mausoleum, and he seriously doubted that the potential mugger who had been following him would go into trouble trying to unlock the building's front door for the time being. He was safe. He glanced back at the front door just to confirm that he had locked it, and where he saw movement in the tiny crack between the bottom floor and the door. Something was oozing through the crack. It was some sort of gelatinous substance, and its movements were slow and steady. It was pink, but it was horrible pink. Not the pink of a cake of frosting and party balloons. It was pink of some living creature's insides. Jack took a step backward. He knew he needed to move more quickly, but he was transfixed by the sight of whatever was in front of him, although it had the appearance of some sort of goo. It seemed like to be moving under his own power. It wasn't an inanimate substance. It was alive. The sudden realization took Jack out of his trance. When he ran down the hallway, he heard the squishy, sloppy steps behind him again, and he didn't turn around to look. He just kept running. At the end of the hall was a door marked exit. He pushed on the door. It wouldn't budge. Was it locked from the outside? Broken? He turned around. The thing, whatever it was getting closer. As the pile of parts he was trying to make sense of, much of it was somewhere between solid and liquid. But there was possibly solid parts as well. Bundles of long, snake-like tubes, veiny bags, and pouches. When Jack was a little boy, he spent a winter break on his grandparents' farm. He remembers watching his grandpa and uncle butcher a hog once. They had hung its body from a tree. Its uncle had sliced down the hog's middle, and its guts had spilled out into the bucket in the sickening splat. This thing, that was how it sounded when it moved. Since he had no luck in the exit, Jack tried another nearby door. It was unlocked. He quickly opened it, darted in, and slammed and locked the door behind him. It was inside another ruined office. The floor was strewn with garbage, and the window was cracked, and strangely, a plaque still hung on the wall saying Employee of the Month. An empty bookshelf on the about height of Jack's waist had been knocked onto the floor, and Jack dragged it to the door and shoved it on the doorknob at the angle. Winded, Jack sat down in the chair and behind the desk, where he was, looking like the boss he had been for years, but in the ruined office, hiding in fear for his life. He should have known that this locked door was useless. Long, slimy tendrils were already snaking their way through the cracks and underneath it. Pink slime dropped around the sides of the door and pooled onto the floor, merging itself from the creeping tendrils. Jack looked at the window and the possible escape route, but more than the globby substance was slithering over the windowsill. Jack looked back at the door. There was something continuing to ooze out of it. There was more than one thing, or is it all the same thing? What is happening? There was a loud slurping sound like someone was trying to pull their feet out of the deep mud. Rapidly, so fast he couldn't even make sense of it, the mass of slime and solids reconstituted itself into the upright being that sat in the chair across from the desk from Jack. The thing was approximations of arms and legs and a lumpy mound that stood for a head, which it was made out of translucent pink goo, under which its organs were visible. Somehow it reminded Jack of an awful gelatinous salad his mom used to make when his canned fruit suspended under a slimy surface. It had no mouth or nose, but it had eyes, dark eyes, that stared at Jack as though it was a thing could see into him as a way it could see into it. What do you want? Jack asked, his voice trembling. He didn't want to die, not when he had just one near miss, not when he was just remembering what was important. The creature kept looking at him, then slowly it raised one arm and reached toward him. Like elastic, its arm stretched, growing thinner as it reached across the length of the desk to touch Jack's face. Pain, like Jack had never known, shot through him. But it wasn't physical pain. He felt the pain of hurt, neglect, abuse, and the pain of every employee had ever yelled at or fired. The pain of his son every time he had missed one of his ball games or unfairly criticized him. The pain of his wife for every forgotten birthday or unkind word. Jack was filled with all this emotional pain he had ever caused, and it was more intense than he could bear. He doubled over and squeezed his tear-filled eyes shut. Sure, he was about to die from a real broken heart. But then the pain left him as suddenly as it had come. It was a wash with an overwhelming sense of relief. When he opened his eyes, the creature was gone. Becky was in bed, but awake, watching one of her shows about home remodeling on TV. "Hiya, Bex," Jack said, pleased to hear his old pet name for her come out of his mouth. He sat down on the bed next to her. "Can I talk to you for a few minutes?" "Sure." He aimed the remote and switched off the TV. "Is everything okay? You're not sick or anything, are you?" Her brow furrowed like it did when she was worried. "No, it's nothing like that." "Good. I mean, it's just been a really long time since you seemed like you wanted to talk to me, so I was afraid it was going to be something bad." "It is bad, but you've done nothing wrong. I wanted to say, I know I've been a bad husband lately, and I'm sorry." Lately didn't even begin to cover it. He knew, but he couldn't remember the last time he acted like a decent husband. Maybe when Tyson was little? Wow. There were tears in her eyes, which was wiped away. "I wasn't expecting that." "Well, from now on, you can expect better of me. You can demand better of me." He felt his eyes getting a little teary, too. "Part of the reason I've been on edge is money. The business isn't going well, Bex. The animatronics keep breaking, families aren't showing up. I'm losing all this money on food. I don't know how much longer the pizza playground can limp along." Becky took his hand and held it. It has been so long time since he had done that. "Oh, honey, you should have told me. And here I've been yammering away about remodeling all this stuff that cost a lot of money. I never would have suggested if I'd known you'd been worried about money. From now on, you gotta promise to tell me when something's wrong." Jack nodded. "I will. I promise." "And I promise I'll do the same." She looked at him in the eyes. "Actually, I think the reason I've obsessed over the house so much is that I've been sad ever since Tyson left home. Fixing things in the house distracted me from how much I miss him." "I miss him too," Jack said. "Nobody tells you how hard it is when their kids go off to college." Becky wiped another tear away. "They act like it's one big party, but it's not. Actually, I've been thinking I might go back to work. There's been an opening at an old real estate office, and they called to ask if I was interested. I figured that way I could keep my mind active and see other people during the day." He squeezed his hand. "Plus, if I get a job, We can have 2 incomes instead of 1. It might ease some of your financial worries. Jack took the lock of hair behind her ear. If that's really what you want to do, then I support you. Back before Tyson was born, Becky had been a successful real estate agent. He had admit that the thought of someone else in the family earning money was comforting. It's really what I want to do, she smiled. There's no need to be a stay-at-home mom when there's no kid staying at home anymore. It's either get a job or get a dog to turn into my surrogate child. I think you made the right choice, Jack said, smiling in return. Say, do you think Tyson's still up? It's not even 11 and he's a college student, Becky said. Of course he's still up. For him, the night is young. She snuggled down under the covers. But it's past my bedtime. Mine too, Jack agreed. But all the same, I want to give Tyson a call. Jack took his phone to the kitchen and poured himself a glass of water. Tyson answered on the first ring, but he sounded low. Hey, buddy, Jack said. I just want to check in and see how things are going. I promise I haven't spent any more of your money, but if that's what you want to know. No. I wasn't calling about money. I was calling about you. Really? Tyson's tone had a hard edge. Because when we talked earlier this week, you wouldn't even tell me about the car emergency I had. You were too upset that I charged your credit card $900 to make up repairs. Jack felt a little tug at his heart. Was that Tyson saying true? Could Jack have really been so cold? I'm sorry if that's how it seemed, but you didn't have an accident, did you? No, but I could have easily. My car broke a belt on the interstate and dropped dead. It was a miracle I didn't get hit. All these cars were just whizzing past me, and I thought right in center lane. Finally, a police officer helped me get the car moved to the side of the road and called a tow truck. I was really scared, Dad. His voice broke with emotion. Anybody would have been scared in that situation, son. Jack felt a full weight of guilt bearing out on him. I'm just glad you're okay. Did the mechanic get your car fixed okay? Yeah, it's running great now. Good. Jack knew the mechanic had overcharged Tyson, taking advantage of the fact that Tyson was an inexperienced boy who didn't know what a fair price was. But the important thing was that Tyson was safe. You couldn't put a price on that. Listen, buddy, I'm gonna let you go, Jack said. I'm sure you've got way more interesting things to do than talk with your old man. If you need anything, let me know. I love you, buddy. I love you too, Dad, Tyson said, sounding confused. As soon as Jack ended the call, he sipped his water and ate one of Becky's delicious homemade oatmeal cranberry pecan cookies. In the morning, he thought he would make some phone calls. He would tell his kids he fired because that's where they were, just kids. To come back to work as usual. He would make things right with them. Jack climbed the stairs, put on his pajamas, and brushed his teeth. He slid into the cool, clean Jack sheets beside Becky, who was already asleep. As soon as Jack closed his eyes, so was he. It was a deep, peaceful rest. Porter didn't have much of an appetite, but he nibbled on his toast and sipped his coffee. He couldn't face the 2 sunny-side-up eggs on his plate and wasn't sure why he had ordered them, except out of habit. It felt like the eggs were just staring at him judgmentally. He knew that it was bothering him was the same as it bothering everybody else in their booth with the Golden Heifer. They were having more traditional late Saturday morning breakfast. They were all received the call from Jack. All agreed to report back to their work at the pizza playground, but they were fearful about what might happen when they got there. Angie was toying with her pancakes. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad a mood do you think Jack will be in today? An 11. Definitely an 11, Sage said, picking at his fruit plate. I've got a job interview with a fancy new steakhouse on Monday, Edwin said. They're still hiring, just saying. I don't think I'd ever get hired as a server someplace fancy, Angie said. I'm not ladylike enough, you know. She crammed a whole strip of bacon in her mouth, as if to illustrate her point. I'm doing the sling pizzas, that's preschoolers. Yeah, I don't guess a fancy steakhouse is animatronic. They need somebody to service, Porter threw in. Yeah, Sage said, laughing. But wouldn't it be weird if they did? Where'd all these rich adults eating steak and lobster and singing head, shoulders, knees, and toes along with Baron Von Bear and his friends? Edwin smiled at Sage and shook his head. You're weird. You're weird, man. They were hiring cleaning staff for the night shift. You ought to apply. Fancy places need their bathrooms clean just like regular places. That's encouraging to hear, Sage said. You know me, student and novelist by day, toilet scrubber by night. They paid their bill and walked together to the pizza playground with all the enthusiasm of condemned prisoners. When they reached the building, they saw the outside decorated with dozens of brightly colored balloons. A sign read, Special today, large cheese pizza, 4 drinks for $10. Includes 25 free game tokens. Porter couldn't imagine Jack involuntarily giving away anything for free. That's actually a pretty good deal, he said. Apparently, other people thought so too. A family paused and looked at the sign. The dad reached into his wallet, pulled out a $10 bill, and said, why not? The family went inside. Wow, Porter said. I feel almost hopeful. Sage wasn't as enthused. Be careful. Remember that Jack hasn't given us plenty of reason to be pessimistic. Porter had admitted that Sage was right. They entered the dining area. Jack was standing next to a table with a family who had just come in and was chatting with them as he filled their glasses and set the pitcher and the rest of the soda on the table. Porter was shocked to see Jack pleasantly interacting with and actually waiting on customers. "Did you see that?" Angie whispered to Porter and Sage. "Since when does Jack hand out free refills without customers practically begging for them?" Since now, apparently," Porter said. "And look at his face. What is he doing?" Sage was similarly in shock. I think he's smiling. Seeing Jack smile was like seeing a dog dancing on his hind legs. It wasn't physically impossible, but it seemed highly unlikely. "There's my stellar staff," Jack said, giving him a friendly wave. "Edwin, would you be willing to go into the kitchen and make these fine folks one of your delicious pizzas?" Sure, Edwin said, looking at Jack like he had just sprouted an extra head. "Angie, Sage, Porter, how are you guys doing today?" Jack said, grinning at them. "It's getting close to final exams, isn't it? Are you studying hard?" Porter looked over the equally confused friends. "Yes, sir." "That's good," Jack said. "I'm proud of you." Thank you, sir." Jack grinned warmly at the trio, taking them aside. "I do hope that all of you will accept my apologies for my behavior yesterday. I also hope you accept a $2 an hour raise." He gave Porter a chuck on the shoulder. And what's with all this sir stuff? There's no need for formality. This is Pizza Playground. We're here to have fun." Porter and Sage shared a look. In the past, Jack had always demanded that his boys call him sir, as if he were a drill sergeant in boot camp. Other family of four came in, perhaps also learned by the $10 special. "Welcome, welcome," Jack called an enthusiastic game show host. "Who's ready for pizza, games, and a show?" All the kids cheered while their parents smiled down at them. Angie seated a few family and took their drink orders. Porter went behind the stage and made sure the animatronics and sound system were in good working order. On the other side of the curtain, he could hear the children talking and laughing, the games in the arcade beeping and blipping, and he wasn't sure what had caused the change, but whatever it was, Pizza Playground had started to feel like what it was supposed to. A place for families to have fun. A place where employees helped create an atmosphere of entertainment, even enjoyed the stuff in the process. But how could the place have felt so bad yesterday and feel the opposite today? How could Jack have fired a whole staff yesterday, and then rehired them and showered them with the kind words of praise today? Didn't make any sense. Porter remembered something his mom used to say. When good luck happens, don't question it. It sounded like sound advice. He programmed the show to start. He stepped backstage and he wouldn't be seen by the audience. The canned music started to play and the sparkly red curtain parted to reveal the two patched together, barely moving animatronic figures. The bear and the weird bird thing was now made of the house band. Even with the two performers on stage, the kids in the audience screamed like rabid fans of the music festival. Porter chuckled, as it was nice to hear them enjoying the fruits of later. Later tonight, he thought, I think I should tinker around more with the puppet carver and see if I can figure out what went wrong. Maybe if I can get it fixed and if Jack's still in a good mood, he'll be willing to watch another demonstration, a successful one this time. The $10 special had been a success. Families had trickled in for all of the course of the night to take advantage of the cheap dinner offer. The business, though not booming, had been steady. Jack felt encouraged. No, he felt more than encouraged. He felt great. Tonight, as he looked around the restaurant, he saw not a doomed money pit and a place full of possibilities. He had to think harder about the ways to bring people in, and tonight had been evidence that if he put his brain to use, tried something new, his efforts would be rewarded. Making a place a success was a challenge, but it was a challenge he would rise to. One reason he would rise to the challenge was because of the great employees. But in order to ensure their loyalty, he had to let them know that he appreciated them. Porter and Angie were wiping down the tables in the dining area, and Sage was mopping the floor. They're all such hard workers. He knew Edwin was working equally hard cleaning up the kitchen. Once the money was rolling in better, Jack thought he would hire a dishwasher to help Edwin out in the kitchen. When business was booming and Jack felt sure it would be soon, one guy in the kitchen wouldn't be enough. Hey, are you guys doing anything special after you get out of here? Jack asked. Angie looked at Porter and Sage, who shrugged. Just studying, probably. Well, if you guys can stick around for a little bit after closing, I thought I might order some Chinese takeout. My treat. No need to study on an empty stomach, right? Angie smiled warily. Sure, Jack. Thanks. It was strange. When Jack was kind to them, they seemed suspicious, like they didn't trust him, like there had to be a catch. Well, there was just going to have to work harder to earn their trust. Jack sat crowded at the table for Porter, Sage, Angie, and Edwin. They passed around the little white boxes containing rice, lo mein, Mongolian beef, and mugu gai pan. This is really nice of you, Jack, Angie said, messily picking up the noodles with her chopstick. It sure beats leftover pizza, Edwin added. That's the truth, Porter said. No offense to your pizza cooking skills, Edwin. Edwin smiled. None taken. I particularly get sicker of it of the rest of you since I'm cooking it and eating it. You've been really nice all day today, Sage said. He looked at Jackson in a strange intensity. It's like you're a new man. Jack smiled, happy to see a table full of happy people sharing good food. Felt like a holiday. Celebration. It was the way things should be. He wasn't sure why things felt so different, so much better, but they did. Jack really was a new man.
From The Puppet Carver by Sage Brantley. Sylvester held his newborn daughter in his arms. With one hand, he touched her impossibly soft cheek. His eyes filled with tears at the same time his lips spread into a smile. This, he thought, this is what is meant to be human. The end.
Sage couldn't believe it. The novel was finished. As he walked into the backstage of the storage room, he read and reread the novel's last line, smiling to himself. Sage could never admit to anyone, but he was so moved by the beauty of his novel that there were many tears in his eyes. It had taken him so many long nights of writing and rewriting, of sacrificing sleep and time with friends. Finally, he was completely satisfied with his work and hoped that soon a publisher would be, too. Then he said goodbye, Pizza Playground, and hello, bestseller list. He laughed out loud. He knew it was going to be ridiculously optimistic, but why not? It could happen. It was needed to do a favor for a friend, and then he could go home and celebrate. Sage pulled back a glittery purple curtain. There it was, the Puppet Carver, named in honor of his novel. Border had told Sage he was going to have to go back to the drawing board and develop what would hopefully be more effective, Puppet Carver 2.0. The old machine would have been scrapped, but Porter he didn't have the heart to do it himself. Sage had promised that he would take care of it. Sage wrestled with the machine, trying to figure out what the best way to go it outside of the dumpster. As he tugged on it, he became aware of a slight sloshing sound, where he had the smell, a rotting, fetid smell that made him gag. It seemed to be coming from the bottom of the machine. Maybe a rat had crawled in there and died or something. Sage kneeled in front of the Puppet Carver so he could reach the drawer at the bottom that served as a reservoir for all the waste generated during the carver's process. Here we go, he muttered, as he prepared the source of the smell. Then he pulled at the drawer. The smell was so strong that the nose was assaulted. The sight was even worse than the smell. Slimy pink entrails of mangled organs. Was that a kidney or a piece of liver? Not the organs of a rat, but much larger creature, human size. Sage had no idea what had been happened here, but it was all good and more reason to get the whole thing to the dumpster as fast as possible. Holding his breath, he dumped the contents of the drawer in the garbage bag. They splattered with a wet splat. He threw the bag in the dumpster and walked away, ready to put this day of the pizza playground behind him.
All right. So today we read pages 41 to 62. Next time we'll be reading pages 63 to 80. But not just that, because we're also going to be reading a new section of the book titled, drumroll please, aka My Throat's Dying, help, Jump for Tickets. Which I gotta move right over there real quick. You know, just real quick. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, I'm sorry. I did my boops too early. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So, yeah. Honestly, there's only one part that I'm a little confused about, because, I mean, it was really good. It was actually a really good story, and I love Ellie Cooper's work. No offense, Miss Wagner, but a lot more than yours. I really like Ellie Cooper's way of mangling the idea of a pizzeria together. So I honestly think it's a good story, but just one question though, just genuinely one. What's up with the thumbnail? Like the book's thumbnail with the 3 puppets. Who are they? I think everything else makes sense except that. I mean, even the machine in the back, it doesn't look correct. I mean, look, the one in the front especially looks like Freddy. The one in the girl looks like Susie, maybe Chica. And then the one with, I don't know, the one over there looks like, I guess you could say that's Bonnie or Foxy. So why did that matter to this? Now, in the end of every one of these FNAF books, there is a secret story. There is a secret story at the end, so maybe that will explain it when we get all 12 books, but I don't know. It's it was a great story, but the thumbnail just makes no sense. It's making me go bonkers. But jokes aside, hope you guys are super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Love y'all. Bye!